get my phone because my computer's being hacked into again. This is supposed to be Windows 8. It's not supposed to happen, but it is. Here's my mouse. It's 5:05 p.m. November 17th, 2013. I have no idea how the frick they're doing it. Where are they going? Oh, I gotta see what the frick they're opening. Oh, hell no. No way. Again, there's my mouse, and they can kiss my ass. I gotta shut the off.
The video you just watched of Stan Romanek's computer being hacked occurred on November 17th, 2012. Just 5 months later, the Loveland Police Department raided Stan Romanek's house on April 12, 2013. Prior to the raid, Stan Romanek had repeatedly called Loveland Police Department for help with numerous computer hackings, along with other threats that occurred to Stan Romanek and his family via voicemail and spray paintings on his house.
Stan, why don't you give us a quick update about why we're here?
We are appealing the decision made by Larimer County Court for a 35C for ineffective counsel.
So what does that mean for people who aren't familiar with the legal system? What is a 35C?
A 35C is because I had such bad legal representation that you filed to get new representation or to appeal what happened with the court because of bad representation.
What was one of the main things that you can think of that they failed to do to represent you effectively?
Well, there were multiple things. They should have, in fact, gotten forensics, and they didn't. They should have gotten private investigators, and they didn't.
When you say forensics, what forensics are you talking about?
Computer forensics.
And why was that important?
Because there was stuff they found on the computer that would have exonerated me.
So, for people who don't know what your whole case is about, what basically happened? So,
they raided my house and said that apparently somebody at the house was looking at child pornography. And when they raided my house, they only seized my computer and my phone, and they seized my desktop and my laptop. But interestingly enough, when forensics was in the house and they did a first initial sweep, they said they found nothing on the computer.
Meaning they found no child porn, no evidence of child porn on the computer at the home.
Exactly.
And when you say they raided your house, who raided your house?
Larimer County, the police department, Larimer County Police Department, and specifically Detective Brian Koopman.
And which agency did he work for?
He worked for Larimer County Police Department.
Was he at Loveland Police Department or the Sheriff's Office?
He was Loveland Police Department, and he was a detective.
Back to the hearing in 2023, what was the single most shocking testimony that you heard about Detective Brian Koopman?
The fact that, there was multiple things in that hearing, is the fact that forensics found evidence that he got a hold of my computer and seemed to stick a thumb drive into my computer, manipulate my computer before it was sent to forensics.
This is Stan Romanek's computer forensic expert testifying at the 35C Ineffective Assistance of Counsel hearing in August 2023. Stan's attorney, Cassie Zobel, asked the forensic expert, "Does that mean that someone used the laptop between when it was seized and the time that it was sent to the lab for the forensic examination?" The expert says yes. The attorney, "Can you tell how it got used?" The expert says, "I can only see little glimpses because this sanitized forensic report did not contain absolutely everything that was obtained from the laptop. I could see that the machine was powered on. I could see that someone attempted to access a user account on the laptop and that some type of USB storage device was plugged into the laptop." The attorney, "Was that concerning to you?" The expert, It was, yeah. The attorney. Why? The expert. A trained forensic examiner would not do those kinds of activities because of the best practices that I talked about before. Original evidence was modified by those actions. The attorney. Did the activity that you found in the sanitized forensic report provide you with any indication of who was responsible for the activity on April 16th? The expert. I had one small clue. There was an external storage device that was plugged into a USB port on the laptop. The name of that storage device was inside of the forensic report, and the initials BK were part of the name of that storage device at that time. The attorney. So you mentioned Detective Koopman. Are you aware of his first name? The expert. Brian. A report was prepared by the prosecution's computer forensic expert, Detective Darren Ford, before Stan Romanek's trial in 2017. Detective Ford writes in the report that he knew Stan Romanek's computer had been shut down 6 days after it was seized from Stan Romanek's home. Remember, Stan's trial attorneys, Ted McClintock and Elizabeth McClintock, refused to hire a computer forensic expert to analyze Stan Romanek's computer. If Stan's trial attorneys had hired a computer forensic expert, then the jury would have learned that Detective Brian Koopman inserted his own initialized USB thumb drive into Stan Romanek's computer and manipulated the evidence on Stan Romanek's computer before the prosecution's computer forensic expert analyzed the computer. But it wasn't just Mr. Romanek's attorneys who railroaded Stan. Let's meet the malicious prosecution gang. The jury in Stan Romanek's case was not allowed to know that Detective Brian Koopman had been charged with his own felony, and that as a result of that felony charge, Brian Koopman was Brady listed by the Weld County District Attorney's Office. In 2023, prosecutor Josh Ritter was fired by District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin after Ritter lied about being blackmailed for naked photos. In 2020, Mitch Murray lost his campaign for district attorney. He was beaten by Gordon McLaughlin, who was elected to serve a second term after McLaughlin beat Republican Don Downs. District Court Judge Susan Blanco assisted Brady cop Brian Koopman, DA Mitch Murray, and DA Josh Ritter in the malicious prosecution and wrongful conviction of Stan Romanek. In 2021, in an unrelated case, the District Attorney's Office of the 8th Judicial District in Larimer County appealed a ruling made by Blanco. In that case, the Colorado Court of Appeals ruled that Judge Susan Blanco violated the separation of powers between government entities. The Court of Appeals said that Blanco, quote, infringed on the separation of powers doctrine, end quote. In a future video, you will learn more about Judge Blanco's nonsensical ruling at Stan Romanek's 35C hearing in August 2023. Judge Blanco, DA Mitch Murray, DA Josh Ritter, and Detective Brian Koopman all knew that Brian Koopman, the lead detective in Stan Romanek's felony case, had been Brady listed by the Weld County District Attorney's Office. The Weld County District Attorney's Office were the prosecuting attorneys who charged Brian Koopman with a felony for lying under oath to a judge in a homicide case.
In August of 2023, there was a hearing. Do you remember that hearing?
Yes.
And what was the nature, what was the purpose of that hearing?
The hearing was to, we filed a 35C against my old attorney because he failed in representing me correctly, and he failed in doing all the things he said he was going to do. He pretty much lied about everything.
So this is the transcript from that hearing. It was a one-day hearing, and there's approximately 300 pages of the transcript. Have you read that transcript recently?
No, I haven't.
What stands out in your mind as the single most important testimony that occurred at that hearing 2 years ago?
The fact that they found that this detective who was Brady listed, and he actually fled the state from what I understand.
Wait, let's stop right there. What does Brady listed mean for people who don't know?
Brady listed means if you are a bad cop and known to either falsify records and or falsify evidence and or lie under testimony, you're not allowed to really be or testify in any other county. In fact, you shouldn't be allowed to testify in the county he was in.
So this officer, the lead detective on your case, is a Brady-listed cop,
Yes.
meaning that he has a sustained pattern of lying
Yep.
under oath. He was Brady-listed. Is that just something you're making up, or
No, it's fact.
who Brady-listed this detective?
I believe it was Weld County. And not only was he Brady listed, he was brought up on charges for trying to influence a judge.
And when you say trying to influence a judge, did he lie to the judge?
Yes, absolutely he did. He lied to the judge. He was known to manipulate evidence and all kinds of things.
Just like what I was telling you. And it's got the 5 gigahertz. And somebody set this up with that one. So somebody that was a techie type person set this up. Oh yeah, you get 2 of them on here. That's why the other one goes away.
So how do you stop that from working then? Do you
I
know?
don't know.
So somebody came in here and put that in there, and that's how they're getting in. That's that router. So they're getting in through our router somehow.
So if you signed on that other one,
I was always signing on. I didn't know, and that's why I said it. But if you see, it says hidden network. It doesn't give you that. It just says hidden network.
that's because it's not being broadcast. See, enable wireless broadcast to SSID. It's not broadcast in the SSID. That's why it says unknown. Now,
But still WPA though, right?
yeah.
So
if you went on that unknown network and even typed this in, you might be able to get on.
that's just crazy.
The Loveland Police Department knew that Stan Romanek was constantly being harassed, intimidated, and that his computers were hacked. Koopman uses Romanek's contact with the Loveland Police Department to intentionally mislead the judge in the arrest affidavit. This is how. Stan Romanek specifically told Koopman that he had repeatedly called the Loveland Police Department for help because somebody was hacking into his computer. Stan Romanek did not admit to any nefarious actions. Brian Koopman twisted the facts, omitted relevant evidence, and distorted Stan Romanek's statements. Koopman intentionally crafted his language in this affidavit so that the judge would rubber stamp it. Koopman actually admits in a written report that he signed 6 days before he raided Stan Romanek's house that Officer Ben DeLima told Koopman that Stan Romanek called the Loveland Police Department 308 days before the raid that his computer was being hacked. Officer DeLima's report about Stan Romanek's computer being hacked was written and signed 308 days before Detective Brian Koopman raided Stan Romanek's house. This is just one verifiable example that Stan Romanek filed reports with the Loveland Police Department about his computer being hacked. There are many more reports. In a report written by Officer Tammy Fisher, she reports that Stan Romanek was threatened by saying, "You're fucking messing with the wrong person. You're all fucked." The caller told him to shut his mouth or die. Officer Tammy Fisher was retaliated against by Detective Brian Koopman when Officer Fisher attempted to simply do her job and write written reports and follow up on those reports that were made by Stan and Lisa Romanek. In part 3 of this ongoing series, you will learn more about how the prosecutors, Judge Susan Blanco and Brady cop Brian Koopman, framed Stan Romanek. But for now, consider this. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from hearing testimony about how other police officers did not want to work with him because of his reputation for lying and fabricating evidence. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from hearing testimony from district attorneys who testified against Brian Koopman related to a homicide case. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from knowing that the Weld County District Attorney Brady listed Brian Koopman. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from knowing that the Public Defender's Office filed motions with a district court judge to have Brian Koopman deemed to be incredible as a matter of law. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from knowing that Brian Koopman was being sued by Loveland businessman Jeremy Myers because Brian Koopman tried to frame Jeremy Myers. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from knowing that an officer from the Loveland Police Department sued Brian Koopman for lying about her to prosecutors. Judge Blanco blocked the jury from knowing that Brian Koopman's fellow officers knew that Brian Koopman was known to lie about and fabricate evidence.
Outside the Larimer County Justice Center with Troy Krenning, defense attorney, and he has just discovered that Brian Koopman is finally on the Larimer County Brady list.
Remarkable. No surprise, but in typical fashion, a day late and $1 short by the district attorney's office in declaring that Brian Koopman was responsible for, several hundred criminal convictions in this jurisdiction. Defense attorneys, defendants, citizens, good police officers had been complaining about Brian Koopman for quite some time, and the fact that he was incredible, untrustworthy, had known to lie on sworn affidavits, had fabricated and manufactured evidence, and now finally they've put him on the Brady list. Every single one of these defendants who Koopman's fingerprints touch their cases should have their case immediately reviewed by the district attorney's office for wrongful conviction. That would be the right thing to do by Gordon McLaughlin and the district attorney's office, is to look at every one of these cases individually so a defendant, some of whom might be sitting in prison, don't have to do it themselves. But that remains to be seen. The fact that they covered up Brian Koopman being named on the Brady list in and of itself shows that the credibility issue isn't just related to Brian Koopman, it's related to the entire criminal justice system and the prosecutors who endorsed him and supported him and covered him up for years.
You have personal experience in cases with defendants who had Brian Koopman as the lead officer?
Yes, I did. I recall several cases, and one in particular where a young man, I believe with all of my heart, was wrongfully convicted of a child pornography case. I'm convinced that that young man's evidence was planted by Brian Koopman after the fact, and we brought that to light in the trial, and it was part of an appeal, which now will likely be reopened based upon this discovery.
Are you aware of you're probably not aware of this, but because you do have a pending case, I want you to know that there is a 35C process going on right now and an appeal in Stan Romanek's case.
Yep.
And his trial attorneys did not hire a defense expert, a computer forensics expert.
Right.
But during the 35C process, they did hire a computer forensic expert, and they discovered that Brian Koopman, once he seized Mr. Romanek's computers, Brian Koopman inserted his own USB drive into Mr. Romanek's computer before the Northern Colorado Forensic Regional Lab got to look at the evidence on the computer.
Yeah, I don't think it's just Stan's case that involved that kind of misconduct. I think there are plenty of cases. I can speak to one where I believe the same thing happened. And you know, it's easy to criticize a defendant for not hiring a computer forensic expert. The city of Loveland, this district attorney's office, the state of Colorado, their resources are unlimited. Very few people can defend themselves against these very serious accusations and go out and hire the level of experts that the state government can produce at trial. So it's always to the disadvantage to be on the accused side of the ledger in this place.
What do you want the people to know when they hear about how long Detective Brian Koopman stayed at the Loveland Police Department? How is that possible?
Well, I guess we'd have to ask Luke Hecker. It still continues to this day. They haven't publicly announced that Koopman was ever on the Brady list. That's just something that you discovered through investigation. The Loveland Police Department has always had credibility problems since Luke Hecker took it over. It didn't get any better under Ticer, and as far as I'm concerned, it's on the same path right now with the current police chief.
And for people who aren't familiar with you, you have a little bit of inside information about the city of Loveland. Why is that?
Well, not only am I a defense attorney, I've been on the city council twice, and during my tenure on city council, I've constantly raised questions about police integrity, police credibility. And now, that's not to say that there are many law enforcement officers on the Loveland Police Department and every other police department that are as honest as the day is long. And it's those officers that I stick up for. Crooked cops like Koopman and others, they should be discarded because it attacks the credibility of the entire department and subsequently the entire system.
Well, you're also a rare breed because you yourself were a police officer.
I was a cop. I spent 20 years. I left as a police chief in 1995. And so I have a high regard for integrity and credibility among police officers. You know, there was a time when a police officer's word was gold. And there was also a time when if you were caught not telling the truth, it was career ending. And now it's almost career enhancing with some of these guys.
Thank you for your time.
You bet.
I went to the Larimer County Justice Center yesterday to actually verify a record on a different case that I'm looking at.
Yes.
And I just want to say that this was like one of those divine interventions where I need to thank the person I was looking at the case for. And if Angelia Hall, if you're out there and you're listening, thank you so much for the price you have paid. Because it brought me to this. So in Stan Romanek's case, I had no idea when I went to the Justice Center yesterday that I was going to find something that mattered in your case. And it was ironic because you and I were talking on the phone. Remember when I pulled up to the Justice Center, I'm talking to you on the phone about your case, and the car drives by with the license plate on the front that said Stan's on it. Remember that?
Yes.
How weird that was? So I go in and I get a records request. I file a criminal justice records request for this other case to verify a record in the other case. And the record that I got was this. This is from the district attorney's office. So I filed the records request yesterday, and I opened a file this morning. So I just found out this morning. Do you see what that is?
Officer credibility list, special pros.
So this is basically the Larimer County Brady list.
lot of people on here.
Look at page 2.
Why are there so many Brady-listed cops in Larimer County?
Larimer County is especially corrupt. And there's more, of course.
Oh my God, Brian Koopman's on here. So this is proof that Brian Koopman is Brady listed.
Brian Koopman is now Brady listed in Larimer County.
He doesn't work for Larimer County anymore, but he is Brady listed for Larimer County. Good God.
Look at the year and the date that he got Brady listed. What does that say?
So that's why he left the state. It's February 25th, 2022.
And when was your 35C hearing?
I don't recall.
Remember the year?
I think it was 2022.
It was 2023, so.
2023, you're right, it was 2023.
Your ineffective assistance of counsel 35C hearing was on August 13th of 2023. Do you know what that means?
I don't know.
Brian Koopman was Brady listed during your 35C hearing, and the district attorney didn't put that on the record.
My God. They can't do that, can they?
No.
Why do they do this to people?
So under Brian Koopman's name, it actually says that the Loveland Police Department initiated the Brady listing of Brian Koopman.
And so they let me suffer and didn't disclose this at all.
You and a whole lot of other people. So you're not alone in this. I know your own pain, your own suffering is your own, but there are so many people who have been hurt by Brian Koopman. It also says on the Brady list that I got yesterday that the findings were sustained.